and I'd never played publicly before. And Camo sort of looked at me and he said, you know, what the heck are you doing here driving a crane? Yeah. And it wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. And then, you know, there was a whole bunch of other...
What's good, lovely people? Welcome to another episode of Den Devine Sessions. This is recorded live from Den Devine, a music venue right here in Broadbeach, Gold Coast, Australia. I'm your host, Joseph Brown, a musician, a creator, and a passionate advocate for all things music. With years of experience on the stage and behind the scenes, I'm here to bring you stories from the heart of the music industry. Whether you're an upcoming musician, a seasoned pro, or dedicated music fan, this podcast is for you. Let's get into the episode.
It's Den Devine Talk.
Den Devine.
Den Devine.
Den Devine Talk.
Brought to you by Vemu.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, you beautiful lovers of music out there in the beautiful wide world. We are here at another episode of Den Devine Sessions. In this venue in Den Devine, it's in the beautiful Broadbeach, Gold Coast, and we talk about the music industry and everything in it. Good, bad, ugly, the raw. We talk with musicians, we talk about their story, and our job here is to be able to bring the music industry to all you people at home listening in. Here, I'm with a friend of mine, and it's a real pleasure and honor to have you here, brother. This is Don Rogers. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Don Rogers. What's up, my bro?
Thank you, Joe. Mate, it's amazing. It's so good to be here on the live sessions at Den Devine. It's a special room for me, and we've got a special friendship, and it's a real honour to be here with you, mate. And it's definitely going to be raw, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want. And how's everything been with you, man? What's been going on?
Mate, it's been good. I've just been enjoying the musical journey so far. I'm not even 2 years into it, and yeah, mate, it's been great. I've forged some great relationships and got some tremendous support, and we just got back from Tamworth Country Music Festival, which was a whole lot of fun. What
a massive one. Big Tamworth. That's sort of a big reputation in the country world. Everyone, I think, has been through Tamworth Country Music Festival. How was it for you? Yeah,
it was great, mate. I want to send a special thanks to the Fitzgerald family, firstly, for their hospitality. Scott and Tiana and Alana Fitzgerald were tremendous for us out there. And through them, we got to meet some really key players in the country music industry. And we're excited for some of the songs and things that we're working on.
Yeah, sure. Awesome, man. Yeah. What a crazy experience to imagine 2 years ago you're up in a crane. Yeah. You're a crane operator. Yeah. So that's your main sort of trade been for a few years.
Back then it was, yeah.
Back then.
I'm a safety advisor these days. But I was a crane operator, yeah.
And now 2 years later, you're at the Tamworth Country Music Festival. Could you, if you had a conversation with yourself up in that crane, would you have believed yourself? Would you have been like...
Not at all, Joe, not at all. And it was actually through, I guess, relationships I had in construction that first gave me the confidence to sing, you know what I mean? I was driving, operating a crane just around the corner here on Surf Parade for Hutchinson Builders, and the form workers have a few beers on a Friday afternoon, and I don't drink, so the boys were like, mate, bring your guitar in and play, you know. And up until that point, I'd only ever played music in the backyard at family barbecues and whatnot. And I tell this story a lot when from stage as well, especially when the man responsible for the comment is present. His name's Cameron Craig, Camo we call him. And I played for the boys. There was probably 30, 40 of them on site that day. And I'd never played publicly before. And Camo sort of looked at me and he said, you know, what the heck are you doing here driving a crane? Yeah. And it wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. And then, you know, there was a whole bunch of other people there that sort of said, mate, you've got a gift, you need to do something with your music. And that's where and that's the power of one word of encouragement to somebody, you know what I mean? Because it's literally opened the doorway to an industry that it's so far removed, Joe, from what I thought I would be doing 2 years ago, you know.
For sure. You know? And have you always I like to go back to the beginning where music, the seed came, and when I mean that seed is that the inspiration. Like you know, we're talking the last couple of years, you've really taken it by the horns. Yeah. But have you always loved music? Have you always been interested in music? Like, did you ever do any lessons when you were younger, or talk to me back when music really came into your head as you might be able to do this, and then now you are doing this.
Yeah, well, mate, I've always had that creative spirit, I guess. My I guess a lot of people will be familiar with my family connections. Like my younger brother is Matt Rogers, the footballer, and my father was Steve Rogers, both Cronulla Sharks greats, and I love them both dearly, and I'm very proud of them. And but what a lot of people don't know, well, what hardly anybody knows, is that my mother was a poet.
Really?
Yeah. So I get that gift of prose from my mum, and when I was young, my dad, growing up around that sort of professional sporting mentality, instilled a real, I guess, work ethic in me, you know what I mean? And
you played footy as well, yeah?
Yeah, I did. I played at the Cronulla Sharks in the lower grades, and my last roll of the dice, if you like, professionally was at the Western Reds in Super League, and unfortunately an injury sort of brought that to an end. But I have no regrets. I've made some fantastic lifelong friends through rugby league, and it's something that's always very dear and close to our heart. But I always had that creativeness in me, and just growing up in the family I grew up in, being a Rogers, growing up watching my dad play, Origin and for Australia and captain the Sharks and whatever, I just thought that was sort of what I was pigeonholed to do, if you like, and I was good at it, and I ground that out for a long time in my life in my younger years. But there was always this creative spark in me, and I remember I had a guitar when I was younger, and I missed a few lessons, and Dad was like, "No, well, that's not it," and he got rid of the guitar, and I sort of, I didn't really pick one up again until 1997, when I was gifted a Fender acoustic by Dean Lance, who was the coach of the Western Reds. Oh. And I remember I sat in my mum and dad's garage and played Knocking on Heaven's Door probably about 1 million times, round and round and round and round, till I learnt that GCD combination, and then from there it sort of just lay dormant for another, that was 97, so it lay dormant for another 15 years, until that comment from Camo just gave me a tiny spark of belief. And I thought, well, he sort of said, what the hell are you doing driving a crane? And then out of the 40 people that were there, probably 30 of them come up to me and gave me that word of encouragement. And that was on Friday, the 2nd of February 2023. So it wasn't that long ago. And then I remember I went home that night, and I said to my wife, Kaya, who I also love dearly, I said, darling, if 30 out of 40 people are saying this, there might be something there to explore, Yeah. So I Googled open mics on Friday the 2nd of February, and the first one I found was the very next day, on the Saturday, and that was down at the Mount Warning Hotel at Yukai, down past Moolumbar. And I went that far because I literally didn't want anyone to recognise me, and I was terrified. And then I played again, and there was some really quality musos there that gave me, I guess, more of the same encouragement. So I came home, and the very next open mic I played was actually this stage right here, which would have been Tuesday the 5th or 6th of February, and that was
the old stage too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and it's and I want to commend Dan Eagles and his team for the work they've done here, because it's a tremendous room, and if you're ever on the Gold Coast, get down to Den Devine, because they're fantastic supporters of live music, and it's a vibe, man. This room is it's a real vibe. And we love playing here.
And was it? I met you at that. I don't know if it was that open mic or was the one after. Was it that one?
You were there, yeah. You were there.
That was the one.
My second one, brother.
Oh man, that's bringing back memories now.
Yeah,
so we've got some memories in the bank already with me and you. I didn't even realize that. I knew we've had memories, we've had heaps of catch ups and everything, but it's been a couple of years, and what an honour that I've got to see at the beginning, and now we're here 2 years later. It
just blows my mind, Joe, and I'm so grateful for the. I guess I think, it doesn't matter what you do in life. It's all about the people around you and the connections you make, and having that team of people to move forward. It doesn't matter whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's music, and to have a good team of people around me. I'm fortunate enough to have, the support of Ringers Western. I've got a tremendous songwriter who we're going to meet later on in the podcast, Bill Rogers. No relation, but we are brothers, definitely. Yeah. And it's actually spelt the same as well. But I don't take that for granted. You know what I mean? I'm very, very grateful, and I'm just looking forward to how the rest of the journey is going to flesh out, because we're excited for what's to come.
Yeah, and so back to that open mic. Yeah. You come in. Of course, like you said, you've got all these people around you. You've got your brother, who's got who's, I think, did you say he's also married to someone? And
Yeah, my brother's wife is Chloe Maxwell, who I also love dearly. She's a dear sister of mine, and she's one of the executive producers at ABC Radio, and has a fantastic sort of, I guess, story herself. You know, she was a model. She's been a TV, Channel V back in the day. Now with radio, and I don't take that for granted either. You know, I think your time's your time, and had I guess realised the musical gift I had 20 years ago, I don't know if it would have panned out the same, because I think a lot of songs come from that place of pain, you know what I mean? And we've been through a lot as a family, you know, losing my mum at a very young age to breast cancer, and then my father, you know, took his life 5 years after that, and I was 26 when we lost mum, 31 when we lost dad, both at very crucial times of my life, and you know, going through those experiences have given me a big pool to draw on to draw some really powerful songs out. So we're excited,
man. And I'm like, that's the great thing about a podcast setting, is that everything you've said, it's almost like a preface to what we're going to go through, and I want to go into all of those little crevices of who Don Rogers is and what you've been through. And one thing that comes to my mind is having those you know, I and a lot of other musicians I know come from not having that much background with who you know. You've come with this all who you know, and learning the what you know, which is your own self as an artist and your own self as a musician. And that's really interesting to me, because you come into this open mic night as a freshie, but you know in your mind there's certain work you've got to do, and you've got the sort of, you've got a few doors there to start you off in the beginning of your career, which is amazing. But I want to know, for you as an artist, how does that make you portray your career? Do you think about like what you have to do in order to be able to open some of those doors that you know you can, because they're your family and they're your friends and everything like that? How does it make you feel as an artist?
One, I feel tremendously blessed, but two, I realise that the work's got to be done, you know what I mean? We can't produce songs that are mediocre if we want to go to a higher level, you know? We need to have quality writing and production, and we're excited to meet some pretty big players in the production field in the coming days to discuss a song that we're going to perform probably later on for you. And but, you know, I go back to one thing that my dad used to tell Matt and I growing up with football, you know, like, and our father, he captained Australia in 1981, and you know, so he's won the Dally M medal, the Rothmans.
He's a legend.
He's literally been to the top of the mountain, you know, and as we were coming up as kids, it's a work ethic that he instilled in us. And he used to say this. He used to say, Donnie, Matt, you guys are definitely not going to be the biggest. You might not be the best. You may be, but you might not. He goes, but you can always be the fittest.
Yeah.
You know, you can always work harder. And that's the only place I've sort of seen in my life, and it's a quote I read somewhere, is the only time success will come before work is in the dictionary. So I've got that sort of mentality, you know. I've seen both my father and brother get to the top of their chosen professions in the sporting field, and I guess I try and apply that to the work ethic that I bring to the table when we're creating and crafting songs. And again, it's nowhere near a solo effort. I'm so blessed to have, you know, that team of people around me that are helping realise the dream, because, you know, I didn't get started in this thing until I was 49 years old, you know, and to see us start getting traction now at 51, it's amazing, mate. I don't take it for granted, that's for sure.
For sure, like, and that's the thing. I guess one thing I want to portray out to any listeners out there is that you've come, you know, 49, you said, so pretty late in the game.
Yeah.
And it's encouragement for anyone listening out there that it's not ever too late.
Yeah.
And even though you've got all the contacts, you still have the work ethic to know that contacts is not what matters. It matters that you are showing up every single day, and that you've actually probably got to work harder than someone with no contacts, because even though you got the contacts, I'm assuming here, and you can correct me, but you have a lot, you got to do twice as much, because they're not only your contacts, but they're family and friends, so they're going to be I'm sure they're riding you.
Yeah, ultra critical, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I want that, you know, and with, you know, for example, Bill, my rider, he's, I've given him, you know, he's in the purple circle, and he's got absolute 100%, you know, permission to speak to me critically to, you know, if I need to hear something, don't wrap it in cotton wool, because time's not on our side, you know. But I think having that lived life experience at the age of 51 is, I needed that to be able to produce the sort of songs that we're crafting, you know, and yeah, so yeah, and you know, and not only Bill, I've got a tremendous musicians around me, you know, that have been in the game for 40 years, you know, like my bass player, Dan Hund, my drummer, Aaron Turner, my guitar player, Chris McKelvey, and also Adam O'Connor was very instrumental in the early days, and I've got a lot of love for Adam as well, and those guys, they tell me what I need to hear, you know, and I tell them, you know, you're not gonna. I've got thick skin, man. If I need to hear something, just tell me it straight, and let's get it right, because it's all about the sound at the end of the day. It's not about the contacts. It's about the sound we can make and the music we can, you know, get people's feet tapping to.
Yeah, man. And was in the beginning, we've had a bit of a touched this a few times over our meetings that we've had off camera.
Yeah,
but it wasn't always country, was it?
No, not at all. I grew up listening. You know, I grew up in the I guess in my formative years through the sort of 90s and stuff, listening to, you know, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. Even got into the metal side of things with Pantera and Metallica and all that sort of stuff. And then when I got, you know, when I started to sort of really practice the guitar more, I started with country songs, because I was just looking for 3 and 4 chord, you know, they're called cowboy chords for a reason, just that G, C, D combination, and just through that process I started to love the genre of country. Like I love the storytelling aspect of country. I love the you know, the emotions you can hit in some of the songs, and we're going to play a song later for you today that's really you know, it's based in truth, and it's amazing, you know.
Yeah. And when you started off at the beginning, before you decided country, what other genres did you try before you really jumped into country?
I never really tried anything. I used to.
I know you've done a bit of rap too.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and we've actually ADX, who's a local rapper here on the Gold Coast. Andy, give him a follow. ADX. He's just pieced together a little sort of middle 8, if you like a little 8 bar section for one of our songs that we're gonna trial it on Sunday and just see how it goes. So I'm excited to see where that goes, because I think rap and country both tell stories, and there's a synergy, if you like, between them. And if you can marry those two together somehow, and tell a real powerful story, then you know, I'm excited to see what ADX has come up with, and we're gonna hear that for the first time on Sunday. So we're excited.
I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah,
where's that going to be?
That's going to be
performed.
It's going to be performed live. We're playing at the Beachmont Hotel on Sunday, up at Advancetown there, and it's going to be good. And they've been tremendous supporters of mine as well, Frank and Tony and the team up there at the Beachmont Hotel. Fantastic venue.
Cool. So coming from that open mic night, you come in here, it's your second open mic, you sing a few songs. I definitely remember a few of the songs that you did sing. You sang, there was a song about, I think it's a hurricane, and
that's a song called you've got a good memory, Joe.
I don't actually. Things that impact me, I remember, and your performance, I think, impacted a lot of people in those early stages.
Wow.
Yeah, Yellowstone as well, and so it's from that, and so you've come into open mic. We're now 2 years later. Yeah. Talk me through this journey. Talk me through after you leave open mic, and like give us the.
Yeah. Well, it was amazing. You know, the first open mic I went to, like I said, it was on Saturday, the 3rd of February, 2023. And I went down to Yukai Hotel, and there was this old cat, and you know the Northern Rivers community, you know, super creative, some really talented musicians there, right? So you got to remember, at this stage, I've never sang into a microphone. I've sang in the backyard, and people have told me I sounded good, but I go to the Northern Rivers, and there is some quality musos there, and it was an open mic. There was probably 30 or 40 of them, and you got to do 3 songs. And this is, again, the power of a word of encouragement. And there was this old cat there. He was probably mid-60s, maybe even early 70s, but he was playing everything. And when I say everything, I mean he was playing saxophone, he was playing keys, he was playing drums, he was playing bass, and he was just chiming in with everyone. Do you want some sax? Do you want some this, that? And this cat was playing, properly playing, and I'm there looking as a rookie going, who the hell is this, So, excuse me, I get up and play, and I remember when they called my name, and I was literally trembling, and I got up shaking, and I said, oh, look, my name's Don Rogers, I've never really done this before, and I'm real nervous, and they were all like, you'll be right, mate, let's go, and you got to do 3 songs. So I played 3 songs. One of them was Hurricane, because at the time I only knew probably 8 songs to play so that I could sing comfortably. So I played 3 songs, and they're all going, more. So I looked at the guy running it, and I said, can I play another one? And he said, mate, you can play as many as you want. Nice. So I was like, wow. So I played another couple of songs. And then this is, again, the power of encouragement. Greg, his name was. I don't know his surname, but his comment as well as Camo's changed the trajectory of my life, Greg came up to me and he said this verbatim. I won't actually use verbatim because he uses a swear word, but he says to me this. He comes up and he goes,
swear as well.
He goes, it's Don, isn't it? And I said, yeah. He goes, my name's Greg. And I shook his hand and he goes, there's no fucking way that's your first time. And I said, mate, it's not my first time singing. It's my first time singing into a microphone, it is. And he told me this. He said, mate, I toured with John Farnham for 15 years. He said, to hide that away because you don't think you're good enough, you should be in a jail cell. He goes, you need to sing as much as you can starting right now. So that was on the Saturday. I came back on the Sunday, Googled open mics and walked in here on the Tuesday. And I remember after that open mic as well, Dan came up to me and it happened at the first maybe the first half a dozen open mics I played. Every time I played, the venue manager would come up and go, mate, when do you want a gig? And I'd be like, mate, I only know 8 songs. I don't have 3 hours of material. And they'd say, well, mate, as soon as you've got 3 hours, look us up. Yeah. So then all I did, I went home, and that's why, I just Googled simple 3-chord country songs that they've also got to have an emotional connection for me. Like not that I don't like, Mustang Sally, for example, but it's not my vibe. I want them to be visceral. I want them to be an emotional experience, not just a pretty noise, what I mean?
Soul, from the soul.
Yeah, and that's part of our logo, Don Rogers Country Rhythm and Soul, because I really want people to feel what we're doing. And I've had more than a handful of gigs where I've had people move to tears from the sound that we make. And for me, that's the biggest compliment, to actually connect with someone emotionally like that. Is just, it's something it still blows my mind, Joe, honestly. I pinch myself every single time I get on stage. And you know what I liken it to? And I said this to my brother, I said, and he's obviously played a lot more bigger games than I have, but I've played some pretty big games. And I said, the feeling I get before I go on stage, it's exactly the same as before a really big game of football. It's that mixture of excitement, anticipation. There's a little bit of fear thrown in there. Yeah. But just like a game of football, once you get your hands on the ball and you make a tackle, you're in the game. And same on stage. As soon as I'm, like if you see me before a gig, whether there's 5 people there, whether there's 500 people there, like I'm pacing, I'm nervous, I'm like, oh. But then when I get up there, it's like halfway through the first song, I'm in the music. We are the music, like we're creating that noise. And I look at everything when I'm on stage. I see everything from up there, and even just to see a couple chatting in the corner, and I see his foot's tapping on the ground. I go, wow, man, we're making that happen. Yeah. And I find that such a privilege, mate. Such a an honor to do, really.
Yeah. It still is. It still will be forever.
Yeah.
And that's a big core of this whole podcast. Is to let people know that when it clicks in your head like that, this is my thing, music's my thing, but it didn't get nurtured because the way society sees music and the way community, like parents and all that, so music's still a little bit of a hobby vibe, and I guess that's one thing that we want to try and bring out of these podcasts is, I know you're a humble man and you're probably going to keep it really humble when I say this, but do you wish that you had that nurture earlier, even though you accept that you can't change anything, and I get all of that.
Yeah.
But how would you have felt if you could have been nurtured and had that little bit of extra support from not just people in your life, but from a community thing where it's not like this crazy ass, like you said, that guy on that first open mic, how did you stay secret for so long? Why did that get kept away from you? Why did that thought where you weren't feeling enough to do that until that encouragement?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the one thing I wanted to ask about is, you know, do you wish you were encouraged a bit earlier?
Yes and no, Joe. I think
that's that humble thing. I knew
yes
you were going to say that.
Yes. I wish. I guess my technical understanding of music had developed a lot earlier, but no, in the sense that I don't think I was ready. You know, I don't think I had, and especially the genre of music we play. One, it's timeless, and I think to go through the life experiences that I touched on earlier has given me a depth of understanding and a character that can sort of bring some of those painful things to life in song. I just, yes and no is the answer. And it wasn't partly not. It wasn't about not being nurtures. It was about my own focus. You got to remember that, you know, my dad first started playing for the Cronulla Sharks A grade in 1973, the year I was born, and he played for Australia the same year. So literally from when I was born until he retired when I was 14, 15. I was growing up in sort of professional rugby league. So that's all, and to all little boys, your dad's your hero, and our dad was the hero to every little boy where we came from in the Shire. But to grow up in that, it wasn't a case really of not being nurtured. It was a case of, I want to do that. You know, I want to do that. My dad's doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
sure.
I didn't. And you know, and to our dad's credit, I mean, growing up, I mean, he played in the era of the Biff from, you know, when it was a different game to it is today. But he had a full-time job. He worked 9 to 5. He went to, you know, training. He also trained, and you know, he had an immense amount of talent and some freakish natural abilities anyway. But even back in 1976, my dad was training like they train today. You know, he was training 5 days a week.
Well, everyone today's on the shoulders. These are the giants.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. And you know, so I'm so yes and no is the answer. I just think, you know, the planets align when they align, and your time's your time when it's your time. And as it's panned out, I think the genre of music that we now sort of, I guess, focus on, it is timeless. I don't think you could have a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid singing the songs with the type of weight that we sing without having that lived experience, without having the bit of salt and pepper in the beard and being able to, you know, one of the things I really like to do from stage, Joe, is connect with people, not only through song, but I tell stories as we go along. I'll give the background to different stories, to different songs and where they come from, and try and engage the crowd and take them on a journey, not just listening, not just playing song after song after song after song, sort of, you know, connect and engage. And I think that's real important in what we do, you know.
And I think it's a great answer. Yeah, yes and no. Because there's that it would have been great, but it's just, this is life, and you don't get to choose those decisions, you know. Sometimes it chooses you, you know.
And I don't have any regrets on the time I focused on football either, you know. It gave me that work ethic that Dad instilled into us, you know. You might not be the biggest, you might not be the best, but you can always be the fittest, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and that applies to music as well, you know. It's just a work thing, you know. It's just I'm just, you know, my focus this year is just to play my guitar every single day of the year. We haven't missed a day yet, and to drill down into some of those life experiences with, you know, the help of, you know, Bill, my songwriter, and really try and bring some of that stuff to the fore.
Yeah. And now talk me through, after those first couple open mics, did you keep going to a few more?
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw you definitely a lot more after that. So you go home, you learn a few more songs.
Yeah, and then
What was your goal?
Oh, mate.
Did you have a goal?
No, I didn't really have a goal, Joe. It was just, one thing just simply led to another, you know, and all I did was I got encouraged on the 2nd of February. I went to an open mic on the 3rd of February, and then I came here on the 6th of February, again, I got encouraged. So then I went to, I think, the Hound and Stag on a Wednesday night. I went to their open mic. And then the open mics, as I sort of learnt 3 hours worth of music, the open mics turned into gigs. Those gigs turned into, like in my first year, by New Year's Eve, I was playing support for Thirsty Merc, going, are you serious? Like, I'm on stage pinching myself. And then those.
Was that through Hound and Stag? Were
yeah,
they like,
yeah. It was through Roy and the gang there at Hound and Stag, which is a tremendous venue as well, and great supporters of ours. And then those gigs turned into The Voice, going on The Voice on Channel 7, which I didn't turn a chair on The Voice, but what it did, it could have gone one or two ways, and they've got a tremendous duty of care. They've got professionals that follow up with you after the shooting to make sure you're doing okay. And I said to, the lady that rang me, I said, mate, this has just lit a fire in my belly. And I guess to know that I was good enough to make it that far, to be amongst the top 40 or 50 singers in the country, to appear on the show, even though I didn't turn a chair, what it did was it reinforced that belief. And I made some tremendous friends and made some really strong relationships through that process. And
when on that voice topic, when they do they choose what you perform? Yeah, did you have an input?
Yes and no. I mean, when through the application phase, you need to give them a list of 20 odd songs that you can perform, and the song they chose for me was on that list. And it was a song I haven't performed since, but it was, I felt not pressured, but I mean, they wanted me to
Can I say
sing.
something like Bro?
Yeah.
I don't think that encompassed Don Rogers.
No, and nor did I, and that's why.
And it's not about regret as well, by the way.
No.
It's about, I think that's a good thing, man, because I think that was something that was out of your control.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit out of your control. And don't get me wrong, man. I get it. You got to own everything. That's a part of the journey. It's a part of you becoming the artist and creating who you are. And that's a part of it.
Well, I did voice, that I wanted to change the song, but by the time I did that, and that was my own fault, I did it too late, because there's things from a production point of view that a show like The Voice have to do, i.e. they have to get copyright from the artist, who was an American artist, and also, the producers and the stage people there encouraged me to sing it, because the song we chose was Old Town Road by Little Nas. You're going to take my horse to the Old Town Road. And the reason they chose that for me is you only get 90 seconds, and that song comes out of the gate really strong. And
What would you have? What was your first pick?
I didn't really have one, Joe, because I went in... but it probably would have been, I guess a lot of the songs I sing are sort of, I like to call them sort of outlaw sort of type of country that, there's a lot of, cocaine, whiskey, broken hearts and that sort of stuff mentioned that I couldn't really sing on air. So that was more of a, I guess, a mainstream song that fitted the vibe of the show. But given my time again, there's a song I really like singing at the moment called Who I Am. And it's an amazing song. The artist's name who wrote it just eludes me at the moment, but we might play that one for you as well a bit later. It's a really good song.
Look, the reason why I bring this topic up is I think that's a really important lesson for any artist is on that journey of becoming your own artist. You're always on this push and pull of what's going to work for the people and what do I want as an artist, right?
Yeah.
And it's come up more than once here where I think the pinnacle of an artist is where you can just be unheartedly yourself and be you and not think about I'm writing for fame, I'm writing for these people, but you're writing for yourself. And I think when you can do that and not be pulled by the industry and what you should be because that's what the industry is asking for, I think you can become a slave to the people and you end up losing a little bit of yourself along the way. So that's why I thought I'd bring this up and ask, on that journey of The Voice and everything, that pull and push, that, hey, this is how it should be. This is mainstream. So now everything's outside of Don. And then it's like, you have to learn lessons, right? You have to go through this and go, what did I learn from that? And how can I make sure that I can do things better and be in more control of yourself as an artist? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I do,
Rhetorically.
but no, yeah, and I guess as well in hindsight, I think I probably pulled the trigger on the voice stuff maybe a little bit early. I think had I had another 6 or 12 months experience performing live, my experience on that show, like if you saw the show, I guess, you know, if I was to critique myself on a scale, 10 being my best performance and 1 being my worst, I was probably realistically like maybe a 4 or a 5. The song choice played a part, but also the environment, just to be in that sort of lights, camera, action, and just the whole. I don't think I was ready for it at the time, but I still don't have any regrets. Though, you know,
No, it's all lessons.
Yeah, and Ruben DeMello, the guy, the winner of The Voice this year, Ruben DeMello Music. I encourage everyone out there to follow his journey because he's an incredible artist, but he's also a fantastic guy. Like, I couldn't imagine it happening. The wind coming to a better human. He's got a lovely, you know, wife and Olivia, and a fantastic young family, and he writes some real good music that, you know, he's given us the okay to do a version of one of his songs later in the year as well. So
wow,
and that's called The Boys, which has got a real significant meaning, and big love to you, Rubes, and yeah, give him a follow, Ruben DeMello Music, fantastic fella.
Yeah, you can't weigh yourself down with regrets. You know, it's all lessons. We all make. As long as you learn something from it, as long as if you don't learn, then you're going to repeat the lesson, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And that lesson might be like you said, might be something as small as, you know, being 6 months more, giving yourself a bit more time.
Yeah, it's funny you say about lessons, mate. I've learnt most lessons the hard way, and I think that's how we learn, you know, is how not to do it. You know, you do something wrong once and sometimes you need to learn that lesson multiple times, especially, you know, there's so many different pillars to life. You know, you got relationships, you got work, you got family, you got finance, you got, you know, music. There's so many different pillars, and there's lessons to learn all along the way. But and I've definitely taken the scenic route, Joe, and learnt most of them the hard way. But you know, I'm grateful for the lessons, mate. I wouldn't change anything, because if anything was to change, I wouldn't be who I was today, you know.
Yeah, so, of course. That's why you can't live in regrets.
No,
you know.
No.
So talk me through after your Thirsty Merc gig. So you've got a few gigs under your belt.
Yeah.
You've done the Big Thirsty Merc show. You've got this whole spectrum of people, from big producers, probably big artists. Because like you said, you're born in this industry. You're born in the industry of entertainment. Football to me is entertainment, right? It's performance. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a sport, but it's a performance sport. If you don't perform,
absolutely,
you know, they just throw you anyway, right? You got to put the show on.
Yeah, there's nowhere to hide on an NRL field. That's for sure.
Exactly. So, you know, this is interesting to me, because the most of the people that we get talking here, they don't come from that background. Yeah. They come from the background, like I said earlier on, of being bedroom singers, and then their dad's like an accountant or something. Yeah. And their best friend knew a guy who was mates with Matty Rogers, right?
Yeah.
But here we are now, someone who's the brother of Matty Rogers and the son of Steve Rogers, and you've got all of these, you're like deep in it. You can pick up the phone and you can just contact anyone you want to get advice, right? I'm sure you've probably got an advice board, a board of people to just give them a call, to be like, what can I do here? You got all these things here. This is interesting for me, because it's like knowing what you do to manage the expectations between everyone you've got and everyone giving you advice, to the unknown artist who's just figuring out themselves. Because these other people, they figured themselves out.
Yeah, and it can be murky waters at time, you know, like trying to work out, you know, who I am as an artist, because it's so fresh, it's so new. But I'm just, and you're right. You know, we've been fortunate enough to grow up around a lot of successful people that all have one thing in common, mate, and that's that work ethic that I've noticed in all of them. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I was on the phone just last week to Neil Pringle, who played. He's one of the Balmain Tigers greats. He did my father's eulogy at his funeral, and tremendous family friend and a big supporter. And we've got our first gig coming up in, I think it's the 16th or 18th of March down at the Coolangatta Hotel. So if you're around, come down and check us out. And I rang Bing and I said, no, that's his nickname's Bing. And I rang Bing and I said, Bing, it'd be great to get a few of the old boys together. So I think, Larry Correr and Graham Eady and a few of the old boys might come along. And I'm just really excited to connect with those boys again and to show them, I'm going to get emotional, Joe. To show them something that my dad didn't get to see. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I really wish he had.
Yeah. It's okay, man.
He's watching.
He's here, man.
Yeah, man.
He's here with you.
Yeah, he is. That's his 200 game ring right there. So I take him wherever I go. He's always he's never far.
Yeah.
But and my mum and those guys are dear family friends. So to be able to perform in a way that they would never have seen when I was a kid, they would have. I guess they might have seen a little glint in my eye somewhere, but they might have put it down to football or whatever. But like I said, Joe, it's so far removed from what I thought I'd be doing at 51 years old, man. And I don't, I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
While we're on this topic,
Yeah.
it's a big thing, man.
Yeah, man. Mental health.
Mental health.
Let's go there.
Let's go there, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's so important, mate. That 6 inches between our ears, you know what I mean? And there's a quote, I don't know, whether I read a lot, and like I said, my mum was a poet. There was a quote I read somewhere or saw somewhere, and it's so important. And it says, when in private, guard your thoughts. When in company, guard your tongue. And, I find myself, still, I go down the rabbit warren as well, like any human does. There's a lot of pressures in life, whether they be financial, professional, musical, whatever, family. And when I find myself going down that rabbit hole, I just sort of, that's one thing music I've found is so grounding for me. It's kind of like, when I pick up my guitar and I play, I can't be anywhere else mentally. No. I'm in that song. I'm in that G chord. I'm in the D. I'm in the, the A sus7 or whatever it is, and I'm there and I'm playing the music. I mentally can't be anywhere else. So I find it really grounding and very therapeutic, if you like.
Yeah, man. Mental health. I've been there, man. Like I've actually had an attempt of suicide.
I'm glad you didn't succeed, Joe.
Tell me about it, man. And it was a hard time. Yeah. And I know firsthand what it's like to think that's your only decision, and that's usually what it is you don't believe there's any other decisions left besides from I'm the problem, and if I'm gone, then the problem's fixed. Yeah.
Well, I guess, my brother and I, through Matt's profile in sport and whatever, we've done a couple of, collaborations, if you like, where we've got together and told the story about our father and how we lost Dad to suicide. And at the time, from the outside looking in at Dad's life, I mean, he was the CEO of the Sharks, the club he played his whole career for. He was probably
on paper he was...
Yeah, he was probably on $300,000 a year. He had the bloody brand new Audi in the driveway, the big house on the beach, and he was with us on the 2nd of January, and on the 3rd of January he wasn't. And that's what we called the night.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 31 when we lost Dad. So it was
you were like
18 years ago now or something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
No, 19 years ago. And I still miss him as much today as I do every other day, And, if Matt and I can share, I guess, our story, and it's not all doom and gloom. We talk about the good stuff, about growing up in an amazing environment.
You have to remember the good stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And if our story can, the Knowledge House is a mental health charity up here that we've partnered with through that. And if we can share our story and just one person gets that sort of mental health help they're going to need at the time they need it to save their family going through the pain and grief that our families experience, then, mate, I'll sing it from the rooftops, you know what I mean? And I had an experience recently that, that I had to go and see someone about just late last year, where I had to do... we lost, there was a lady at a gig on the 24th of November, so just before Christmas, who we were just loading out, and she collapsed in the car park and had a heart attack, and there was no pulse, no breathing, And fortunately, you know, I'm a safety advisor, and I start a new role on Monday with John Holland down here on the light rail. I'm really excited to sink my teeth into that. But I had to do CPR on that day, and we lost her pulse 3 times that day, and I had to do 4 different loss of chest compressions, and that was November 24th. And when that happened, I went home and I thought, fantastic, she's okay. I got her to the ambulance, but in the weeks after that, I wasn't sleeping right, and I wasn't eating properly, and I knew something wasn't right. I wasn't conscious. It wasn't a conscious thing. I just knew, man, I'm sleeping like 3 hours a night. I'm not eating right, and I went and saw a professional, and they just gave me some, you know, meditation and some breathing exercise to do, and then I found out that Jessica, her name is, she's okay. She walked into a gig about 3 weeks later, because I didn't know how she turned out. I knew that we got her pulse back, and we put her in the ambulance, but I didn't know how long she'd been on the ground. So it only takes, you know, a couple of minutes without fresh blood to the brain to develop brain damage, and I didn't know whether she was okay, whether she wasn't. And then, you know, 4 weeks later, three and a half weeks later, she walked into a gig at the Beachmont Hotel, and I'm mid-song, and I'm playing, and she walks in, and I'm like, that's her. So I walk over to my bass player, I'm like, that's the chick. He's like, who? I'm like, the chick. And then, like, you know, we embraced, and then from on the back of that, just down in Tamworth, Bill and I have put the finishing touches on a song that is an amazing song. It's called On That Night. We're tossing up names, whether it's going to be On That Night, or I think, you know, calling the song Jessica's, even though the song doesn't mention her name. And Jessica and I have now got a lifelong connection, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said to her the other day, you should change your birth date, though. She's got a new birthday. It's November 24.
November 24. Yeah.
But so she's become a Scorpio. So.
And you're gonna sing that today, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll perform it for you.
Yeah.
And
it'll be first time performed live, but you've played it a few times.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough, and I want to give a special shout out to Tangi Order and the crew at Nagada Media. We went on live on air with them down at the Tamworth Country Music Festival, and we played that. And you know, Graham Connors, who's a country music legend, he was actually in the studio walking in. He was about to be on after us, and between the changeover, you know, Graham came up to me. He goes, "Mate, that is a banging song, mate. That is such a good song."
Yeah.
And then you know, who else was there? You know, John Williamson. He actually played my Cole Clark guitar. So shout out to Cole Clark Guitars. And you know, to sit there, they're like, "Oh, can John borrow your guitar?" I'm like, "Oh, please." You know, so I had John Williamson played it, and then who else was there? There was and Warren H. Williams, who's a proud Indigenous fellow, that he played my guitar as well on air, and he sang a song in Indigenous language.
Really?
It means hello, and it was amazing, you know, just to see those absolute living legends give us that, I guess, feedback that it's a good song, but it's the meaning behind the song, Joe. You know, it's steeped in truth. Every word in that song is true.
Yeah, and your first-hand experience.
Yeah, even down to the, you know, we mentioned the Ariat boots under the tree because, you know, post that event when I met her at the Beachmont Hotel, she was running some new Ariat boots that she just got for Christmas, and you know, things could have turned out a whole lot different if I hadn't have been there. So, and I'm not saying I'm the hero. I'm just saying it's real important. Any of your listeners or anyone watching online, you know, if you're thinking of going and doing your CPR, please go and do it, because it's a 3-hour course. Might cost you $60, and I've had my CPR since I did my bronze medallion just over here at Currawa Surf Club when I was 15 years old. I've had my CPR ever since that day, and I didn't have to use it until 36 years later. And you know, and it was at the Riverview Hotel, who have since got a defib on the premises, and at the time they didn't have one, and I guess I don't know how that's going to work out, but I'd love to use part of the proceeds of this song that we're meeting some pretty big players in the music industry actually tomorrow to discuss the production of this song, and I'd love to use part of that to give back to the community, to make sure that all those little pubs in the regional areas, in the outback, whatever, have all got a defib, because I think if someone's going to have a heart attack, it's going to be, you know, you're at a pub, you're on the terps, you're, you know, on whatever else, you're excited, your heart rate's up, and you know, just to have that reassurance that they've got one on the wall.
Yeah.
Even if they, you know, they might never have to use it, and great, But that one day they do need it, and 15 years from now, if we're responsible for putting it on the wall there, you know, we can
whole
save
better
more.
to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
And so you wrote that with Bill. So should we bring Bill up on?
Yeah, let's bring Bill up. I'd love,
come on
to
up,
get
Bill.
involved in the podcast.
Bill Rogers.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Hey, fellas.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, Bill.
You can see nice and clearly. Dan, you good in the video? Yeah. Sweet, man. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Say your name and date of birth for the records.
Not again.
Yeah. So Bill, how are you, man?
I'm good, mate.
Yeah.
Yep.
From New Zealand
Originally, yeah.
originally.
I moved to Sydney in '83 though, so I've been here a long time, and I've been up in Queensland for 20 years. So
Yeah.
I'm old.
Yeah. Where in New Zealand were you born?
Gisborne on the East
yeah.
Coast.
I'm
Yeah.
from Wairau,
Uh-huh.
so just up the road.
You know, neighbours.
We got some fam down there.
Yeah. Nice, man. Nice. How long have you been up on the Gold Coast?
Moved here in 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 20 years.
And how'd you meet this guy?
That's a story.
Let's go there.
Yeah, so I've been writing songs for. I decided I wanted to write. I've been a songwriter since I was about 17.
Yeah.
And when we left, my wife and I and our daughter left Sydney to come up here, I decided that music was over. So I actually took the album that we'd recorded, the master tapes, to the dump and dumped them, so I couldn't go back. There's no
Wow.
way back. And I decided I was going to write songs, just be a songwriter. And so I started writing songs, and I had to teach myself how to write for other people, because that's a completely different kettle of fish as to writing for yourself.
Yeah.
So I started writing these songs. They started coming out country. I went to an open mic. Actually, I came to this open mic. I'm pretty sure it was the first one that you did here. You're up on stage and you were singing.
Serendipity.
I was sitting over here at this
Sliding
table,
doors.
and I said, yeah, well, it's raw, but there's something there, right? And then I didn't think anything about it. Went to the Hound and Stag one night to play my original songs, and I flippantly said, if anybody knows a country singer who needs some songs, let me know. Nigel, one of the guys who was running that, came up to me as I was walking off the stage and excitedly said to me, mate, I know the guy. You've got it. You got to get, I'll text him now. So he texted him. And that's how we came to get together. Out of me saying something flippantly and somebody knowing someone, we eventually got together, and the rest is history, really. It's just worked out.
Well, history in the making, Bill.
History in the making.
Yeah.
History in the making.
History in the making.
No, but I love Bill, and we've developed a friendship, a kinship, if you like. Like, you know, I see Bill as family, and I'm so. It's like a serendipity moment that even that we've got the same surname, spelt the same. We are no blood relation, but we're definitely brothers, and there's a synergy when we write together that. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, my mum was a poet, so I get that gift of prose from my mum. And I'll just come up with, it might be a one-liner in a conversation, it might be something that I hear somewhere, and I'll just flesh out a little poem about it. I'll send it to Bill and say, mate, I think this is a rocky bluesy number. Everything's country, obviously. So I think this is a rocky number, this one's a ballad, this one's whatever. And I give Bill creative control I go, mate, feel free to chop and change, pull words out, put stuff in, just make it work. And so far we've probably worked on at least, maybe 6, 7, 8 songs. I don't even know. But we've got a back catalogue of songs that are all quality songs that we're ready to pull the trigger on. And that's on the back of the one we're going to play for you later today about Jessica. And it just works, mate. Every time Bill sent me something back, I've not once even had to go, but I think it needs everything. I just go, wow, that's exactly how I thought of it in my mind. And it just works, mate. It's supernatural. I don't know how it happens. I don't question it. I just go, here it is. Let's do it.
Yeah. And you've always, so songwriting's a big part of your journey.
Yeah, funnily enough, you were talking about mental health before. And so, I'm from a pretty rough background. It was tough.
Yeah.
And music and songwriting in particular was the way that I got rid of all of the emotions from that, all of the angst, all of the things that would have probably driven me to have, trouble with authority or the police or whatever. But that was my place to dump all of the things that were going on inside of me that were negative. So I would write songs to get it out.
Yeah.
And then push it out so that it could be replaced with something more positive. And it took a long time to get through all of that. Most of the songs I was writing through my teens and into my 20s was, pretty heavy rock with heavy subject matter. And then I just got to this point where I know a lot of songwriters get to. The first one is I'd like to write a happy song, right, which people seem to have problems with, a lot of songwriters I know, because emotion is what you need in songs, and it comes more readily from a sad or a negative thing. Melancholy, yeah.
Melancholy,
and then
nostalgia.
And then the second thing is I want to write an up-tempo song rather than a ballad, because we're constantly turning out these sad ballady songs.
Yeah.
So songwriting was my saviour. It saved me from a life I know probably wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
And it's something that I actually didn't do now after years of doing it. I now know that it was something, probably the only thing. So we have a connection in football also. I'm a rugby union guy.
He goes for the All Blacks.
And well, the Wallabies is my second team. but so
All Blacks are mine.
So we talk a lot, in rugby terminology. Even when we're talking about music, we often talk about how you're feeling here and if you're about to throw that pass and that the other guy is where he'll be and what he's going to do and all of those sorts of things. We talk about things like that and we sort of put it into music, and so songwriting is something that I did that quite naturally. I played football like most Kiwis do. It was just a natural thing. You go out there 5 years old, you go out, you throw a ball around, and eventually,
bull rush.
Yeah, bull rush. But as a songwriter, a musician, was something that I didn't do naturally. I thought I did, but actually the technicalities of songwriting, you've got to go deep on those, and you have to start understanding how other people are doing things, why they're doing things, why they're putting those two chords together and not others, how you structure a melody, how you structure the
structure of the song.
Yeah, the rhythm of the lyric with the melody. It's you've got to get those things right, because you may not notice them when you hear a hit song, but if you go back and look at all the pieces and how it's put together, it's the reason that it's a hit song.
Yeah.
It's all the detail. The detail is very important.
Yeah. And Bill's attention to detail, I just, I don't question what he sends me, because everything he sends me, the first time I hear it, I go, wow, So we just...
But you've got to get what you have to get in the first instance from, the stuff that Don sends me, it's a catalyst.
Yeah.
And more often than not, the stuff that he sends me has got the thing in it that sparks the song.
Yeah.
That tells you it's in a minor key. It needs this sort of rhythm to it in order to capture the energy that needs to go into that song to tell the story properly.
Yeah.
So without one, you can't have the other, and vice versa.
So from your song sort of creation process, you'll get the lyrics first, and then the melody, and then the chords, or are you doing?
Well, Bill's got a wealth of his own songs that he's written that I'm hopeful that, and some of them are real good songs. I'm hoping I'm the guy to sing some of them, but I'm all about, it's all about the music. So I've said to Bill, I said, mate, if you write something that's like it needs a female performer or a duet, or it's a different vibe that doesn't fit me, I'm more than happy because it's all about the music, you know what I mean? And I don't want that focus to change. And Bill's got some awesome songs, and we've written a handful of great songs together that we're really excited to bring into production. But I feel very blessed and very fortunate that we've connected along the way, and it's more about the relationship we have and the respect we have for one another. I think it comes out in how we, on how we produce songs and how we interrelate. Like, it's not only Bill and I, like, Bill's wife Alison is a tremendous friend with my wife Kaya. We take the kids over, we break bread together, I want that team environment because that's what I've grown up in and around.
Yeah.
So I want that inner sanctum, the purple circle, if you like it, to be 100% rock solid. You know what I mean? Like it's we've all got each other's back, and that comes not only from the writing process, but the band members, everything. We're all working towards a common goal, and we leave our egos at the door. You know what I mean? So it's all about the craft and the end product. And if I need to hear a hard lesson, like, he just tells me straight, mate. And some of them, I'm like, well, okay.
Always a Kiwi as well.
Yeah.
We're good at telling
but
things
when it comes to the
but in a
creative
nice,
process,
friendly way.
yeah. But and I don't want our creative process to go through a filter. I want it to be fucking bang. This is what you need to hear. This is it. Deal with it.
And with that the song you're about to sing today, the one about Jessica.
Yeah.
You've been through the experience, obviously only 24th of November, so it's only a couple months ago.
No, it was only 8 weeks ago,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get the context of the song?
Straight away.
Straight away?
Straight away.
Then did it get changed from when you wrote it to Bill writing it?
Not really. I mean, Bill added a line which is an amazing, like, I sent him I think the start of the poem, it's probably on my phone, I can find the original poem I sent him, but one of the lyrics I wrote him was on that cold car park gravel with my hands on your chest, trying to push the life back in your body, hoping for the best. You know what I mean? I wrote that, and then Bill sort of wrote this other thing. He had tacked onto that, I made a promise I wasn't sure I could keep, if I'm honest, that when we'd meet again, we'd be just friends and we'd hold each other tight. On that night, we'll dance under the moonlight, we'll raise our glasses to the sky, all this stuff. But everything in that song is based in truth, and I love the way Bill pieced it together on his own. Like, I gave him that vibe from the first intro, and I'll let Bill chat on it in a minute, but I wrote a post online, and you can check it out, and I encourage all your listeners to follow Don Rogers Music, nice segue, Don Rogers Music on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll see the post there that I actually wrote, and that was in the public forum on social media. And part of it spoke about her 12-year-old daughter, and she's got a beautiful 12-year-old special needs daughter at home. And you got to remember, Jessica's only 40 years old, and through, I guess, having contact with her later, I learnt that she had a brand new pair of Ariat boots under the Christmas tree that were hers for Christmas from her dad, or maybe it had been from her daughter, but she would never have worn those boots, and so we wrote that into the song, I thought of your daughter with Christmas round the corner and those Ariat boots under the tree. And that was Bill's contribution, and it just married in so beautifully. And I'll let Bill talk on it because, I don't know, it was just, it just happened, man. I don't know how to describe it.
But the process with Don stuff is he'll send me these lyrics, and sometimes they're more, say in this one here, that's just truth. He just wrote it how he remembered it. How, some of his feelings through that. I actually was reading the post, and picked up on a few other things that weren't in the initial stuff he sent me.
And I saw how you fleshed those in too, mate. It was very, very good. Very well done.
And so making a story out of that'll fit into a 3.5-4 minute song is getting a story that's cohesive and leads to a finale is just a matter of moving some of the second verse lyrics to half of the first the first part of the lyric, to actually make something that's coherent there that leads to the next part, which is getting a build happening so that you're getting to chorus and you don't bore us, get to the chorus. Yeah. So those sorts of things, we're now starting to find that's much easier to do because we're doing it, and we know things about each other. I know a lot more about Don than I did at the start,
Especially after Tamworth.
especially after Tamworth, which is a whole lot of other songs.
What
I'd say.
happens in Tamworth stays in
Stays
Tamworth.
in Tamworth. So as we get to know each other and understand each other, that process is getting more efficient, more effective.
And I like to think it's more natural too, Bill. It's just there's a natural understanding that we have of each other, and Bill encompasses the vibe I'm trying to portray with my music so beautifully in the way he creates songs. So I just want, I say it to him privately a lot, but I just want him to know publicly that I love him and I appreciate him, and I'm very grateful, mate.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Don. But it's just one more thing around that. One of the things that makes it really simple, and this is really, really important for young ones, other people who are thinking about a musical career or actually already in it. What makes it really easy for me with Don is that Don was saying before, he's still not clear on who he is. I think he's very clear on who he is. It may not be something he's conscious about, but I was very clear about who I thought he was and then who he is, and there's no doubt. So to write songs from is really easy because there's a character almost that he brings that makes it very clear about who he is, and people who are trying to build a career in music or think about getting into it, you have to find that character in yourself, and you have to be honest about it.
Honest.
That's what I like about him. He's just blatantly honest about
brutally
who he
honest.
is. Brutally honest.
Brutally honest at times.
About who he wants to be and how he sees in place. And that's such an important thing. There's so many people out there with bags of talent, but they don't know who they are.
And that can be proven when you look at artists like Bob Marley, right? Which I bring Bob Marley up because only Bob Marley could write a song, Rise Up This Morning, Smile at the Rising Sun, Three Little Birds. I couldn't do that. Yeah. He could execute that, and it's so simple, but because he's seen from that place of I'm from poverty. So that little words to the average person might not mean much, but because Bob Marley's singing it from his place, he's authentic in himself, it hits you and it makes you cry. And you go, how could something so simple impact so hard? And it comes back down to what you're saying. It's because that he knows what his artistry is. Yeah,
and he doesn't shy away from it. And the people who are successful around that are just being who they are, and are just honest about where they've come from and what they're trying to succeed in, and not even succeed, just be who they are, and that every moment's really important. Yeah. And that's what Don epitomises to me.
And it makes me think of once years ago we had this girl who was like sort of singing with my band, and there was a song, Hit the Road Jack, I think it was, or it was one of those songs, and she kept saying, why can't I hit that note? And I said, because you're a 20-something-year-old in the Gold Coast, and when she wrote that, she was black oppressed, so she was singing from somewhere to get out of that oppression, while you haven't got that trauma, so you're not able to hit that note, because when she hits that note, she goes, all of my suffering is gonna help me get there. And it just makes me think that you really need that experience, like you brought back earlier on, where when you're singing, you can do things because you are that person. You have really embodied that character of, I'm going to tell the story of Jessica. And you're going to sing it from the heart with tears in your eyes, going back to that moment every time for the rest of your life.
Oh, 100%. Whenever I remember, we had the camera set up when Bill and I, and the song was 95% done, and we were just trying to, I guess, dovetail the ending of the song. And this was in Tiana Fitzgerald's lounge room in Tamworth that we finally got it right. And we probably did, it wasn't that many, it was maybe a dozen takes, I was like, no, it's not, we've got to come up with a way that it finishes perfectly. And then when we got it, I just remember I looked at Bill and he looked at me, and I just pumped his fist, and we just knew, like, I feel like, I said it to someone the other day, we caught lightning in a bottle that night, you know what I mean? We literally caught lightning in a bottle, and I'm so excited for where this song could go, and the people and the lives it can touch, you know what I mean? I mean, if one defib gets put in one pub and that's used 15 years from now, that song could be responsible for that. And I'm real excited because, to have people like Graham Connors and stuff walk in as we're singing it live on air for the first time, who heard it and actually said, mate, that is a big song. That is a beautiful song. That really, solidified my belief. I already knew it was a big song, but to have that, that word of encouragement again from someone that's established in the industry was amazing, and we knew on the spot.
Even Neil at Kick FM, after your interview, and you'd been talking about the song, he stood up and said, mate, those are powerful words. And I think that's, you can write songs, as we do, with hooks aplenty. And, we've got some pretty good party songs that are just all about let's get down and do it, And but when that song comes along, that's just got everything going for it. It falls into place. The subject matter was great. The melody, everything just fell into place with that song. It happened really quickly. It came together really quickly. Then that's a whole different situation from sitting down writing pop songs or pop country songs and trying to in a way manufacture them. When it pours through you without a hell of a lot of control over it, you're only controlling structure. But the energy that has come from somewhere else, you're onto something.
So we were excited. Like we not only played it on Nagata radio through Tangi Order and the G-Man and the guys, and a big shout out to Nagata Radio. It was literally a world premiere on that station. But we also, through Scott Fitzgerald and the Fitzgerald family, got to meet Jeff Dunn, who was one of the salespeople for Kicks Country Radio. It's a national station, and when we shared the story with him, just the post online, and said, we've created a really powerful song about this. I got, we were blessed enough to be invited onto Kicks Country Radio with Crossy and Neil Stewart, the voice of the Outback, and Neil sort of said, when that song's ready, mate, send it through because it's going to be powerful, and it's not about. I always say a little prayer before I go on stage with my bass player in particular. We've both got a Christian faith, and I sort of say to him, it's the same prayer every time. I say, God, please guide our notes, guide our energy, but let it not be about us. Let it be about them. Let it be about them. Let us get their feet tapping. Let them have an experience, not just hear a pretty noise. I don't want to make a pretty noise. You know what I mean? I want it to be visceral. I want people to go away different than they came in the door.
That's the power of music.
It is.
Music's like it's not tangible. It's not like this glass that's here in front of you. It's the product of music is an emotion. It's a feeling. It's a memory, and that's the power. It's like invisible. It's you could be singing a song, and someone in the back corner. Who doesn't want to socialize, who got dragged out by their friends on the back of an argument with their best friend, or their mum passed away a few days before, and that and you're singing a song and you don't even realize it, but you're impacting them. And then they might go away and you might not know, but then months later, and this happened to me more than once, they come up to you and they finally have that strength built up, and they go, man, I was in the back corner, and you wouldn't even know.
And you're like, wow, you're right, Joe.
I'm impacting these people.
That's the power of music. It's such a dynamic art, you know what I mean? And it's so, it's such a blessing to be able to perform it, and it's something I don't ever want to take it for granted. I don't ever want to feel like I've arrived. I want the creative process to be like an ongoing journey, you know what I mean? We never arrive at the station. We just create a song, we create another one, and if one gets traction and can allow us to focus more on the craft, then great. But I don't play music for fame, fortune, or dollars. You know what I mean? I play music because it's a part of my being. It's a part of who I am. You know what I mean?
And that's, you know, the topic that we want to really push on this podcast with everyone we speak here is not only how important music is for us, but how important music is for the world. And that being a musician, we're like spiritual doctors.
Yeah.
We're like counselors, psychologists. We are, but instead of a two-way street, it's like you're impacting people.
They don't lay down on the couch. They
Yeah,
get up
they
on the
don't.
dance
They
floor.
get up on the dance floor.
But
Or they
I
sit
agree.
down and
I agree with what you said, Joe. I mean, imagine. And I say this often. I go, could you imagine the world, right? If you took music away for just 24 hours globally, like it would be anarchy. Like the place would implode.
yeah.
Like, you know, like, and it is such a powerful medium, you know, and yeah, just grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, and so I want to go into that sort of, you know, starting to give some industry, I guess, knowledge out there. And I think it's really great someone like yourself and both of you can bring to the table because you are in it. You're in it. You're in it more than anyone.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? And you're facing these challenges that people are going through all the time, and I guess that's great because it's fresh in your mind. We've had people here, like we've had Tikitani here, who's 30 years, you know, and so that's like his perspective is how to be in the industry for 31 years, which is a long time, and then having yourself 2 years in, pretty late in your life, which I really hope this sparks up a lot of other 49-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 39-year-olds. You know, to bring that music back out, and give that a crack.
I don't think it even has to be music. You know what I mean? That one word of encouragement that I got from Camo, and then at the open mic, and then here again with Dan and the guys at Den Devine, really changed me. But it doesn't even have to be music. You know, if you've got something in you that's a burning desire that's just laying dormant that you've always wanted to do, don't let age be a barrier. You know what I mean? Like, get out and do that thing. Climb that mountain. You know, scuba dive that reef. Do whatever it is that you want to do. Because, you know, this, you know, we're only here once, Joe. So do the things that bring joy to your heart, you know, and whether it's music, whether it's whatever, it doesn't matter. But and you know, if you're a listener that can be the voice of encouragement for that one person, I never want to discourage anyone. Like, if you've got one leg and you come up to me and say you want to climb Everest, I'd be like, bloody oath you
Let's
can.
do it.
It's going to take you twice as long. It'll be twice as hard, but you can get there one rope pull at a time. Like, why can't you? So, like,
And that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
One day at a time, we're trying to do our best every day to try and make the dream come true. So,
Yeah. So let's get to the nitty gritties.
Yeah.
All right. So a big part of, we've spoken about this bit before, and I've just got to tell the listeners every time because might be some different people here, but a big part of what we're doing is we're developing an app, right? And that's something that I'm doing with, I've got a business partner and he's the developer, and the app's trying to create some powerful tools for the industry. Yeah. But before this isn't about the app. This is about getting some insight into your experience in the industry. Yeah. So what I like to ask people is, you know, and I'll repeat this over and over again, but that's okay. There's the synergy, right, between the venues, the music lovers, and the musicians. And I love when that synergy just is on point. And for me, not all of my gigs have that synergy. Some venues are a little bit slack, or sometimes, you know, it's just every time it changes. Yeah. What I wanted to ask you is, in your experience over the last 2 years, what's been your experience? We're going to talk about through each sort of component, right? Yeah. For venues, what, from your perspective, what makes you feel like you're safe to just be you, and how can venues accommodate yourself?
Oh wow, well, mate, I can only be myself. You know what I mean? I can't be anything else, and I think I've spent a lot of years of especially my younger life, trying to be somebody else that I wasn't. With the football, for example, and like I said earlier, I don't regret my time in football, and I made a lot of great friends, but I don't think that was my calling, you know. And I think it comes with age, that whether it's a venue or not, I want to be my authentic self wherever I am. I don't know if I've answered the question correctly.
Yeah, and like, let me ask it in a different light. Yeah. What I'm meaning is, and this is experience, right? It's not opinion. Yeah. So over all of your gigs, are there certain venues where you feel that, like myself, right? I come to Den Devine and I feel like we're all on.
Yeah,
we're all on. The crowd, the venue's on. They've promoted it. They've done all of the extra work.
Yeah.
And because of that, we've created this energy, right? But
Yeah.
then some venues I go to, they don't give a crap and they don't promote it and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And that affects me because I think to my head, like, well, they don't even value what's this going on about.
There's definitely venues where we feel more, well, I can't speak for we, I can only speak for I, but where I feel more appreciated than others. And I think, you know, if you're a venue manager or an entertainment booker, I think it's important to understand that you musicians, you know, we practice our craft, even though I've only been live with it for 2 years. I mean, I've been practicing it for decades, you know what I mean? At home, where nobody sees, in the garage. So we practice this art for decades. We carry tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment around. And some of those gigs you're rocking up to play for like $200, you know what I mean? And I think what I want to do as an artist is set a standard for other artists to go, well, no, well, this is what we're worth. And you know, like my band, for example, we play for X amount of dollars and that doesn't change, you know, and we get venues that are happy to pay us what we ask for. And they're the venues that, you know, where we feel appreciated and that will get the most of our attention. And I want to encourage other artists that, you know, you don't get if you don't ask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that will, you know, encourage someone to you know, just to back your ability, you know.
It's back to it, man. Like, it's back to that talk of what we're expressing before, of we're musicians, and it's our calling.
Yeah.
And you know, I see music as important as a doctor or any medical certificate. And it's like, why do doctors get paid the big bucks? It's because it's been educated in our system that they save lives.
Yeah. So do musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I want to just echo in again. That's what I want to push out to the people, is that music is important. And I think if we can just keep on telling people and letting everyone know, like, this ain't going away. People have a calling to be musicians. So there's like this one part of the brain, which is like, we're all creative. But I think that logical part of like, how can we lift the value of the music out in the industry where people can come through and actually just be like, I'm coming to do what I do. And I want to do it my best. And, you know, when you look at doctors, they do it their best because they live a good life. They're driving a nice car. And because of that, their clarity of mental space is able to be on point. Yeah. Imagine if we had that clarity. Imagine these superstars who do have that. They are able to put a show on and touch so many people's lives. Well, we could do that as well. Yeah,
and I try to do that every single performance, mate. Like I said earlier, you know, I want the art, the music that we, you know, produce, especially in a live setting. I want it to be visceral. I want you to feel it. I don't want you to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, well, I want you to hear it as well, but I want it to be visceral. I want it to strike an emotion. And you're right, you know, like, in what you say.
I remember seeing, do you know C.W. Stone King?
Yeah.
Yeah? I watched him at a gig, and before he played, you know, he was in the green room. It was at Moe's. And for about an hour before he played, he had all the lights off. He was at this table. He had his whiskey here, and he just had his head down. Yeah. And for that hour, he got into that. It was like meditation. Yeah. And everyone gave him all that love and all of that. And because of all of those little things, he got up and he went and he just ripped it all amazingly.
And I can go the other end of the spectrum. In 1999, 2000, I worked for Morrison Media that do Surf and Life and Slam and Snowboarder and all that, those sort of youth lifestyle magazines. And I remember Suicidal Tendencies were playing a gig at the Narrabeen Sands Hotel. And we were there as part of the media team. We got to go backstage. And before the gig, Mike Muir, the lead singer from Suicidals with his bandana, mate, I've never seen anything like it. He was pacing like just, like he was just like on this energy charge, just up and down the hallway. Just you could see the energy just building. And then I remember the first song they played, he came out and sang, "Beware, he's possessed to skate." And the place just lit up, and I was like, wow. And it wasn't coincidence, you know, like he brought that energy from backstage straight onto stage, and it was amazing to see. So
that's it, man. Like that's where I want to try and start heading, is how can we, for me, man, I feel there's, I've been in the industry for about 12 years, right? And that's like full time. I've done my rounds around the gigs and know people all around, I've seen it. But I've seen since sort of like pre-COVID, as a general, I don't mean individual venues, I mean as a general industry, it's just the musician became like the care just disappeared, right? Like it just did.
But I think also that comes down to, I mean, and I'm speaking in general terms as well, but I won't say all of, but some of the musicians I meet, they treat it like a hobby. Like I treat it professionally because like I want it to be a profession. I want this to be my bread and butter. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Bill's with me. Like, if you want pocket money, treat it like a hobby. If you want to make a living at it, and give it the respect what any art deserves. And I don't think it doesn't matter whether it's music, business, sport, anything. If you want to be elite, like not good, like if you want to be at the elite level, I think you need to go through a period of time, whether it be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, where anybody watching that from the outside, they look at it and go, mate, he's possessed with that. Yeah. Because you need to be. You need to be. That's the difference between the also-rans and the elite, and it's such a fine line that people step over it and they don't see it. Yeah. It's such a, it can be, it's just that, and that's I guess, a mentality, if you like, that I'm fortunate to understand just growing up watching my dad and my brother and go to the top of the mountain in their chosen fields and go, okay, well, I've seen what it takes. Yeah. Not musically, but in sporting and in whatever. It doesn't matter. Like you don't think Bill Gates sat in a dark single room with a computer screen for like 20 years before Apple or before whatever, Microsoft or whatever?
Well, he also had a billionaire dad.
I can guarantee you they did.
He was pretty young when they started, but he had some pretty good contacts. He was doing stuff with Xerox and.
No, I know what you mean.
But yeah, I've been at both sides. I've been the musician trying to get the gig and then get the gig, and owned a venue, and so you get to see both sides of the coin. Sometimes a venue just can't pay that. It's not possible. Economy rules there. The other side of it is, if you're in that business, and you don't care about everyone who's working in your venue, whether that be your staff, the cleaner, and the musicians that are coming in there. If you don't care, if you don't give them a decent PA system to play through, you're going to get a substandard sound. If you don't look after them, they're not going to be in the greatest state of mind to actually deliver the kind of product that you need to get your patrons all fired up and ready to, buy another drink or go out and tell their friends, I had a great time at Den Devine last night because we saw this band there and they were kicking ass. If you don't provide all of those things for them, then you'll get something that's slightly less than you might have. And from the musician side of things, it's know thy value. Yeah. Be clear about who you are and what you're trying to do, and then put a value on that. And sometimes you're going to lose one because you said no. Yeah. But if you keep working hard, you'll get to that point where it's undeniable. Yeah. People have to give you what you want.
Yeah, and I know that's another thing to talk on as well, is that some people do overvalue themselves a little bit, because I think the value of you're going to have always subjective value, right? Like we've spoken about this before, like your mum's always going to say you're worth $1 million, and I get that, but in the industry that we're in, right, because we're talking about the music industry, we're talking about people who want to make it a career, not people who want to be hobbies. We're talking about the professional business side, right? And I was always told your value is how much tickets you can sell. That's the way I've always been explained. Right, and a lot of people say I'm worth $10,000, and it's like, well, have you done $10,000 in ticket sales? No, I haven't. Have you done $100 in ticket sales? No. Then your value is undefined right now until you do that. That's why people like, what's his name? Who was just here, the big country artist,
Luke Combs.
Luke Combs. well, his value is that, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's the black and white.
Speaking
And-
of ticketed shows, nice segue, Joe. We've got our first ticketed show actually coming up on February 22nd in Sydney. It's at the Brass Monkey in Cronulla. It's
Nice.
the Son of a Gun homecoming tour, and anyone in the Shire or the Cronulla-Sutherland region, we'd love you guys to get your tickets because we're going to tie one on that night, and we'd love to see you all there.
Yeah, nice little segue.
Beautiful little plug.
But I guess that's why it's the nitty gritties, right? Is because I feel over time things, it became all about paying bills, and it became all about the bottom dollar because the industry's struggling. We know that, right? It's obvious. So it's like, well, along that way of survival, we've let go of the value of what music does. And it's like, I think bringing that back in is really important, right? Like, that's just how I feel. So it's just about getting to the nitty gritties of how can we do that,
Yeah.
How can we bring that back in?
Yeah, I want to be instrumental in that regard, and just in regards to setting not only like a standard, not in terms of money. I'm not motivated by money, Joe. I want to set a standard, like Bill said, that's performance based,
Yeah.
that speaks for itself. Where people say we want to pay X amount of dollars to have that band here because they know that there's going to be wall to wall people spending X amount of dollars over the bar. And I know it's like any business. The only reason any business in the world will spend money is to make money.
Yeah.
Like that's business.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's very simple.
If we can demonstrate to whether it be a new venue, an existing venue, that our act is worth this amount of money because and we've got a lot of the football boys that follow us around, and they've got healthy appetites over the bar, and they have a good time, and we love performing for them, and
So-
it's great.
So from you as an artist, we'll go to you as a musician now. So
Yeah.
when you're out there searching for gigs and trying to find gigs, I'm assuming the open mics open up a few doors. But
Yeah.
when you're starting to contact venues, how does that all work for you?
For myself, I've just drafted up a standard sort of introductory email, if you like, that's got links to our socials. It's got a little bit of background, a little bit of an introduction. We're a duo or a 4-piece band. And it mentions the voice in there. It's just a generic sort of this is who we are, this is what we do kind of email. Gauge the interest. If I get a response back and the dialogue opens up, then we have the discussion, and I'm not shy in asking for a date. So when are we playing? When do you want to see it? So. It's a discussion I'm going to have with Dan after the podcast, actually. We need to lock some dates down here at Den Devine, which is one of our favourite rooms to play. The vibe here is unreal, and I know that, a lot of my family and friends live in the immediate local area, so we're confident we can take the roof off this place for sure.
And do you get a good like a ratio of emails versus people getting back to you? Do you just cold email them, or are you like...
No, I'll normally, when I've got time, I'll just log a call and say, if it's, Joe Blogg's Hotel in the back of Burke or whatever, I'll just ring them and say, hey, who's your entertainment manager? My name's Don.
Yeah.
I want to send through an introductory email. I'm not sure if there's a fit for you guys, but if there is, we'd sure love to have a chat,
And use any agents?
Yeah, we've got a couple of agents that look after us. The guys at Aplom Promotions, and in Sydney is the biggest agent we work with, which is Jeff Trio and the gang at Code One Music. So we've got some ticketed shows coming up through those guys, and I'm just letting it all unfold pretty much organically, Joe. To be honest, I sort of one door will open, it'll lead to another door, and then I guess our immediate focus, in the short term, is we've got a production meeting tomorrow with a fairly influential, strong personality in the music industry that shall remain nameless at this stage, but we're excited to meet with them and see, what their thoughts are on the song, and then look to possibly see if we can get some funding towards production and then pull the trigger, because I think on the back of this on that night / Jessica song, I think it's going to touch a lot of people, and that's what it's all about. It's all about just connecting. And I think that will open the doors. And we're fortunate enough to also have, we've got our first range of Don Rogers apparel, which is from our good friends at Ringers Western. So anyone that wants one of the Ringers Don Rogers music shirts, they can
Get a
the
shot.
He's getting the shot. They can get those at. They can get these bad guys at. I probably should have just left it on the wall. It would have been easier, but they're available through Danny and the guys at Ringers Western. They're a big supporter of ours, and you know we're excited. So if you want one of those, head to Don Rogers Music on Instagram, Facebook, and we can make sure you're the best looking rooster or hen at the show.
And do you have anything to add to that, like just on when you're out there looking for gigs and all that sort of stuff, like, you know?
Oh, mate, I'm from way back in the 80s and the 90s doing stuff where you were out at 2 o'clock in the morning sticking posters on power poles to try and get, and going to other places and handing out flyers and things like that. And that's another thing, that Don does really well is the promotion. You have to have it and you have to do it. And no matter how shy you are, you've got to force yourself to make contact with people. It's the same sort of thing as connecting from the stage. You must connect with those people in the industry in order to tell them you exist. Otherwise, they don't know you're alive. And then you have to get to them inside their mind and show them that you are going to make this happen with or without them. Once they understand that, they're more likely to get on board. And
we need to. I like to just leave an impact on people, a positive impact, because I spent a lot of my life leaving a negative impact on people growing up, going through hard times and reacting poorly to different situations. But my brother said something to me a couple of years ago that I took on board, that I try to apply to everything, and it's like life's full of human interactions, these touch points. We're having one right now, Joe. And I used to walk around with this dark cloud over my head and wonder why it was raining all the time, you know what I mean? Like, he used to say to me this, he said to me, mate, whenever someone's in my personal space and we're interacting, I always want that person to go away feeling better than they came in.
Yeah.
Even if we disagree on something.
Yeah.
Well, I can still handle that with enough grace to allow you to keep your dignity, to say, well, I beg to differ and I disagree for this reason. Or whatever. It can even be a complete stranger who I'll never meet. If I've got, a phone bill and I'm speaking to someone in a call centre in Sri Lanka and it's through Telstra or whatever, I don't have to ring up and go, you bloody charged me this and rah, rah. I go, look, I think there's been an oversight on my bill. I'm wondering if you can help me clean it up. Yeah. And then thank them for their help at the end. And you leave that person, they go, wow, like I feel like, and it's, I think it's important to be remembered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
for
the right reason.
From an industry point of view, recently, one of the big 4 labels in the world just bought 4 of the biggest platforms for independent music. Right? They've paid enormous amount of money for those platforms.
And are you talking about like Bandcamp and that?
Yep.
So they're now not independent.
That's right. They're no longer independent because the record company has looked at that and says, we used to have 100 artists.
Political, mate.
I know, but it's a point.
But that's what we do.
It's a point of.
We get on that because that has to be because that's what's killing the industry.
Well, there's a point of view from the industry that says, why should we spend say we've got 100 artists, 2 of them we spent a lot of money on, they've been successful, and the other 98 we've spent quite a lot of money on and they aren't successful. If we take these platforms, then people on the independent artists are actually promoting and paying for their own, their own promotion and their own.
So taking money out of the.
Yeah, and so it's a better business model. Now, I'm not sure that it is or whether it'll be successful. But the other thing is that record companies are looking at people who brand themselves well.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole lot of work that they don't have to do either. And, this guy here, I think, is one of the best. And so it makes it, if you're in business and you can provide a service that makes it easier for your end user, it's going to make life easier for them, then they're more inclined to actually take you on, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's a really important thing for musicians to find out. I didn't know any of this until, maybe the last 10, 15 years. It's and a mutual friend of ours, I took my daughter to see him in concert, and he said, "What are you doing?" And my daughter said, "I want to be in events." He said, "Join a band," right? Because you have to be everything. You've got to be that person that gets the gigs, promotes the gigs, plays the gigs,
Yeah.
do all of these things. So you can learn a lot in music just
Yeah,
by doing it.
look, this is what it is to be raw and real. Is that there are things impacting the growth of the industry. There's no doubt about it. Like the big conversations, Spotify, Live Nation, all these guys, they're undoubtedly stopping the growth of music. They're gatekeeping and stopping the real artists coming through, because that's the problem. Is that the artists aren't getting through. The people where all the money's going to are not artists. They're just puppets puppeting the fame and the pop and all that sort of stuff. But the artists like the Don Rogers might hit doors when it's time for you to really break out, because they're going, oh no, hang on, that's going to affect these things, And that's why I'm all for it, man. Like I'm all for it. Like I said, we've spoken that it's not just about the pretty part of the music industry. As much as we love the pretty part and the excitement, there are a lot of people struggling to make this a career because of these sort of topics.
But it's also so competitive though, Joe, as well. You've got to put it into perspective. Like, mate, being at Tamworth, walking down Peel Street, there was over 500 buskers there this year. And we connected with a number of them, and there was so much quality, mate. And that really, I guess, lit a fire under my belly in terms of, what can I do to be different? I can just, I might not be the best, but I can work harder than anyone else. So we got to go to work, And I'm still at the, at the ground level, and I'm so grateful to have, people in my corner like Bill Rogers that's got 40 plus years experience creating and musical knowledge. My band members, to have Ringers Western on board, have that brand association to meet some key players on the weekend, your Crossies and your Neil Stewarts at Kicks Country Radio and the guys at Nagata Media. I don't take any of that for granted, and it's all very intentional. Like everything that we do in that space, even down to the way I structure a social media post, there's a lot of thought and intent behind all of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen, It's not like I'll think on something for days, and if it's not right, I won't. One of my media mentors coming up was a guy by the name of Scott Maxworthy, and I love Scott like a brother as well. He's based in Sydney and Max Media, and we did a live broadcast for the Cronulla Sharks on Sharks TV and a whole lot of stuff. And he used to always have this little cliche. He'd say, "Keep your powder dry, until it's time to pull the trigger," And that's why, we're excited about this meeting that we've potentially got tomorrow with a person that will remain nameless at this stage, but there wouldn't be many people in the upper echelons of music that don't know this person. So we're excited to meet, and if it fleshes out the way we think and hope that it will, then good. And if it doesn't, then there's no love lost. There's no, but we've kept our powder dry until it's time to pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
Sure, man. And one topic, just what you were speaking about, is everyone defines success very differently, right? Like me, I don't want to be famous. To me, to sell a stadium's not appealing to me, because for me, I just want to play music.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I know, they like that's all they want to do, right? The fame and the success where it's competitive up the top is. A lot of people that we've had here is like, that's not success to me.
No.
And that's where we're trying to establish a encompassing 360 positive industry, where if you want to compete up there, of course you should, you can do that. But if you want to just be like a lot of people like myself who are fathers and they just want to play music as a job and spread that love. If I spend 20 years playing these venues, I've played to a stadium, but to 1,000 different venues, you know? And that's where it's like all about, as well as creating that 360 encompassing sphere from the top, but also down the bottom, where we're not losing venues, where people define this is where you cut your teeth.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly right.
And it's like, so that's the hot topic at the moment, is people are spending so much time trying to get up here, but we're forgetting like this is where it was.
Yeah, 100%.
Back in the days, stadiums weren't a thing. You see AC/DC in the pubs,
and it wasn't even that long ago, mate. You look at even, remember the Sunday sessions. I remember the Sunday sessions when I was growing up on the Gold Coast, and when my dad retired, Matt and I, we moved up here, and my little sister Melanie as well. Big shout out to her and the family in Karratha in WA. But we moved up here, and And I was 15 going to Merrimack High and Palm Beach Currumbin High, and we spent some time up here. But I remember back in those days, I think it was maybe the late 80s, early 90s, you'd have like Cold Chisel, I think Nirvana, like big bands playing the Sunday sessions at what used to be Fisherman's Wharf, now the Yacht Deck.
Yeah.
Used to be huge, mate. They have some of the biggest bands ever playing there, you know.
And so all of those
And you had the
venues,
Playroom,
they all shut down.
Yeah.
And because of that, it took out the next line of superstars. It's very hard to try and create a superstar at the top. They've got to create them down here.
Yeah, and I think that's important for the listeners out there and the people watching online to get along and support your local musos. You know, get along and pack out Den Devine, pack out the Yacht Deck, pack out the Beachmont, pack out wherever, pack out, you know, the Courthouse Hotel at Moolumbar. Get along and watch these, and not only myself, but all the musicians coming through. Lend them your support, because these guys practice their craft for decades. They carry thousands of dollars worth of equipment around. They give up their family time to be out there to entertain, to bring something. Well, I know that when we perform, I try and bring something spiritual. You know, I'm trying to touch people, and that's what I want. You know, I want people to come to our show and feel like they've been touched in some way. And it's not only for the Don Rogers band, but all the your local musos, wherever you are and wherever you're watching this, not only Australia, wherever, get out and support them. You know.
And so from your 2 years in the industry now, what's the biggest misconception you've had about the industry?
Probably that you can just write a good song and it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just going to fall in your lap on the back of a good song. I think there's a whole lot of stuff that goes in behind creating that good song, and like Bill touched on before, it's imagery, it's people's perception, it's the right contacts. It's like anything, you know. It's in a way, it's kind of who you know as well as what you know as well.
Yeah. And how about yourself, Bill? Any misconceptions?
I've got a lot of them. Nah. Misconceptions. I think that probably they're all mine. You know, they're all things that I imagined.
Yeah.
Until I actually got, you know, was opening doors and walking through them and meeting people. The misconceptions were mine, even about who those people were and what they did and what they were doing to me, you know. In fact, most of the stuff that you do out of ignorance, you're doing to yourself. Mm-hmm. And the more you become aware of your surroundings and who the people are that you're dealing with, and as Don does a lot, really well, is to find out who that person is and see them as who they are, and not, even though they might become an asset to them later on, his first approach is to meet them as a human being and accept them for who they are. And then if a relationship comes out of that and something happens because of that initial meeting, then there's truth in that. And I think that's what you've got to be, you know, always looking for.
But you've also got to produce the good music as well. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, you've also got to. There's nowhere to hide when you're surrounded by so much talent.
You could say that, but there's some pretty shit music up there, right? And they got houses and mansions and Ferraris, and they're going, beat to the street, drink. And I want
to touch on something Bill said earlier that one of my mentors, and I've got different mentors for different areas of life. Like, you know, like my finance mentor, you know, I've got a guy for finance, for another guy for relationships, and I wouldn't, you know, cross-pollinate the two. So it's important who you select advice from in different areas. But one of my mentors once said, you know, I've suffered a lot in my life, most of which has never happened. You know what I mean? Because our mind can, and that's back to that mental health. That's 6 inches between our ears, you know. I now find myself going down the rabbit hole of, you know, what if this song? I just go, no, mate, just play the song. Yeah. And people are going to either like it or they're not going to. And you know.
I saw some stats out recently from a lot of the one big label, and they said it's not till the second album most people find success. So you're talking 30 songs before and that's the stats, and even like a lot of the big artists out there say you have to just release not one song, you got to release albums.
And I think and it's all happened organically for Bill and I. Like, we've sort of already got, you know, a number of songs in the back that you know, we're hoping we can prove that second album theory wrong and just come out of the gate strong with our first one. But like I said,
Oh,
mate,
then-
it's not motivated by. We're not motivated by money, sort of thing. I just like making music and the fact we can touch people.
Yeah, I think that's more like just the overall approach.
Yeah.
People obviously do ones. There's a lot of like
Oh yeah, like
single song
you hear
releases.
Ed Sheeran, he talks about written thousands of bad songs before he got to the good
Yeah.
ones. You know what I mean? And it's just like any skill, mate. The more you do it, the better you get. The more confidence you get. And then when you get when you get your songs coming back to you from other people, that's really, I guess, the crowning jewel, the indicator that you're onto something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're excited.
Yeah, for sure, man. Man, we've gotten through some good stuff. I reckon.
I think so.
It's all good stuff. Like that's why it's just better to keep it raw and real. And you got to talk about what needs to be talked about, and you got to flesh out a lot of the bad shit that's holding back the industry, and you got to talk about the good stuff. And your journey.
I don't like to speak poorly of anything, though, mate.
Nah, man. But I've always had
my
this.
my mum always taught me, if I can't be kind, be quiet.
I've had.
I don't always do it perfectly, but I try.
From one of my mentors that I've had was like, there's this thing off the cockroach issue. If you ignore the cockroaches, it infests. So sometimes you have to tackle the cockroaches and just deal with them.
Yeah,
and then it's done, I
can still have my private thoughts can be my private thoughts, Joe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what I believe, anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good to have differing opinions.
And the music industry is like music itself. There's so many different perspectives of it, and there's so many different experiences of it.
There are.
People have completely, wildly different experiences depending on who they are and how they portray themselves. All of those things.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard to get a, to
It is.
a
That's why it's
foothold
great.
beat
hard
on
to get
it.
a and it's hard to get a foothold,
Yeah.
especially.
Of course.
So much talented, like wow. Like I remember there was one girl down at Tamworth, and I think Lee Kernigan did a little piece with her online. She was like 9, turning 10 years old, and this girl was a good little singer, and mate, it's amazing the level of talent that's out there. But I'm just I don't have any expectation, mate. I just sing, and if people like it, that's great. And,
man.
I just enjoy the journey. I'm enjoying the journey, Joe.
And you have to, man. My vision has always been that if my kids want to come to the industry's a safer and better place. Because there's a lot of lions and wolves ready to just snap someone up, So, man, I love like that we've gotten into these conversations. We've been talking for 2 hours. That's crazy as that completely.
It's been a long
while.
Might have to cut it down. 2 hours is a long time to hold someone's attention online. 1 hour is pretty much the max.
Well, someone was talking about this, that the long form 3.5 hours is becoming normal, and like all of Joe Rogan's 2.5, 3, 4 hours. But anyway, man, cool. Well, I'm so thankful that we got to get into those topics. I understand what you're saying, man. It's good to have positive reinforcement. The nature of this podcast is for us to talk about the raw and hard stuff.
Yeah.
But I understand where you're coming from with what you're trying to say and where you come from as an artist, which I'm thankful for, man. And I honor you as an artist, of course.
Thank you, Joe. And mate, we stumbled across that recording we did ages ago. At your joint down at Tamworth. There's something there to flesh out too, I think.
Yeah,
as well.
man, for sure, man. But let's do a big shout out for Ringers Western again, and for all of your supporters and for everything.
Yeah, I want to thank Cole Clark Guitars, Ringers Western, Denny and the crew out there, been a tremendous supporter of ours. And if anyone wants to purchase any Ringers Western gear, that's something that's available 24/7, 365 is when you go to ringerswestern.com.
Yeah.
Put in the code DON20 at the checkout, and you'll save yourself 20% off the retail.
And that'll be down in the description as well. If anyone's, we'll just put the DON20 down the bottom.
Yeah. And we're very grateful for them and for those guys, and and for yourself, Joe, and for Dan Eagles and the team here at Den Devine as well. So support those that support local music. Make sure if you're in Broadbeach, get in and look for the yellow Music is Life sign. It's like a little old speakeasy in here. I love the vibe. It's such a vibe. When the place is packed and they're pushed right up the front, we've got the band on this stage. It's such an amazing place to play. So,
and to wrap it up, man, we'll just do some quick 5-second shots at you. So just to relax up the load. Yeah. First things first, favourite place to write?
At home.
At home?
Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere at home or just wherever it is?
I mostly do it in my bedroom, like laying down. I'll just get an idea, and they normally come at like 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. And what's your bucket list gig?
Don't really have one.
You haven't got one?
CMA Nashville, I'll say that.
Yeah, sorry.
See,
Someone just walked through the door, by the way.
Let's say I'm going to throw it out there. Why not? The Grand Ole Opry National.
Yeah, Grand Ole. Nice one. And dream collaboration? Could be producer or artist.
I think I'm in it.
You're in it?
I'm in it now with Bill and I'd love to do a collab with one of those sort of outlaw American country vibes, like a Whiskey Myers, a Tyler Childers, a New Breed, or someone like that.
Yeah, and dream support.
Dream
for you
support.
to support.
I'd love to for me to play support.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I'd love to share the stage with any of those guys, like a Luke Combs, the guys I've mentioned. Just to be, not so much to support, just to be in their presence and just see what that X factor is that they've got. And see if I can't gain a little bit of it through osmosis or just rubbing shoulders with them.
Yeah. And Dead Celebrities Dinner.
Ooh, that's a good one. Dead Celebrities Dinner. What if I could have dinner with how many? One or two, or how many do I get to invite?
Let's go two.
Two. It'd be, I think it'd be Muhammad Ali, just for his charisma and the way he is. I think you'd never be bored. And the other one might be Elvis Presley.
Elvis, nice.
I think it'd be cool to sit down with Elvis and Muhammad together.
How about yourself, man? How about you, Bill?
Dinner?
Yeah.
Dinner with someone? Whew. Yeah, that's a tough one. There's so many. Stevie Wonder, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. He's not dead though, is he?
No, but when he is.
When he is.
So Stevie, if you're listening, we'll invite you around for dinner.
And
I'd have him around now.
And just any advice for anyone that's sort of, they could be later on in the game or they could be coming through as a new artist, like any advice for them?
Yeah, I've got a word of advice. Just don't let age be a barrier. And even if I don't care if it's music, business, whatever it is, just find that thing that makes your heart smile and just do more of that and do less of the stuff that makes your heart sort of sad.
Nice.
Whether it's music or whatever. Go climb the mountain, ride that roller coaster, fish that reef that you've always wanted to fish, write that song you've always wanted to write, do whatever it is that brings you joy.
For sure.
Yeah, same. Just find the thing you love. You'll never work a day.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And Mandela, probably.
Yeah, nice. Any final thoughts? Any shout-outs?
I just want to give a special shout-out again to Den Devine and Dan Eagles and his team here for putting the live sessions together. For you, Joe, for hosting it. For our friends at Ringers Western, remember the Don20 code at checkout. Save yourself a bit of coin there. And Cole Clark Guitars. And just, I want to thank also the Kamilaroi Nation and the Gomeroi people of Tamworth and the good locals of Tamworth that opened their streets once, to the greatest festival I've been a part of, and I just want to thank those people and the Fitzgerald family of Tamworth, Tiana and Scotty and Alana for their hospitality. Really. And thanks, very grateful.
Nice one. Once again, we dive into the topics here at Den Devine Sessions. We get real, we get raw, and we bring all this experience from people just starting off in the industry, from people in 30 years in the industry, and from people halfway in between. And we are here to try and make the industry an awesome, beautiful, thriving industry for upcomers and for people right up there. So thank you everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Don Rogers.
Are we going to play our song?
Yeah, we are going to play our song.
Nice.
So we're going to get to the song and reset the stage and all that sort of stuff. Don Rogers, let's give all of your handles so everything's...
Yeah, everything. I encourage all our viewers and listeners to just follow Don Rogers Music. That's R-O-G, no D. So Don Rogers Music on Instagram and Facebook, and settle up because we're excited for how things might pan out in the coming months, and we'd love you all to settle up and be part of the journey with us.
Yep, Don Rogers, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, pleasure, my man. Thanks, Joe. Love you, man.
Thanks, man. Nice, bro.
Good.